Supreme Admiral Vex'thara of the Galactic Dominion had seen many species kneel before her might. The Zephyrians with their crystalline ships, shattered like glass baubles. The mighty Corvan Empire with their plasma cannons, reduced to cosmic dust. But humans? Well, humans were supposed to be the galaxy's newest comedy act. Admiral, chittered her second-in-command, Colonel Crix, his mandibles clicking with barely contained amusement. The primitive Earth vessel is requesting to speak with you directly. Vex'thara's 4 eyes rolled in perfect synchronization. Of course they were. These bipedal mammals probably wanted to surrender before she even fired a single shot. How delightfully efficient. Put them through, she commanded, settling her massive frame into the command throne. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a surprisingly calm human female with auburn hair and eyes that seemed to hold secrets. "This is Captain Riley Voss of the ESS Defiance," the human said, her voice carrying an odd mixture of respect and something that made Vex'thara's antennae twitch. "I assume you're here to add Earth to your collection of conquered worlds?" "Indeed, Captain Voss," Vex'thara replied, her translator rendering her words into the crude human tongue. "Though I must commend your species for building such an amusing vessel. Did you construct it from recycled space debris?" Captain Voss actually smiled at that. Smiled. Most species would be trembling by now. "Oh, you mean the Defiance?" "Yeah, she's not much to look at, is she? Built her from scrapped mining equipment, old satellite parts, and a whole lot of human stubbornness." Colonel Crix's clicking intensified. "Admiral, their ship barely registers on our threat assessment matrix. It's held together with what their databases call duct tape and prayers." "Fascinating," Vex'thara mused, studying the human captain. "And you intend to, what exactly? Ram us with your flying scrapyard?" "Well," Captain Voss said, her smile widening, "I was hoping we could settle this like civilized beings. How about a little wager?" This caught Vex'thara off guard. A wager? From a species that hadn't even achieved proper faster-than-light travel? "Explain." "Simple. One-on-one combat. Ship to ship. If you win, Earth surrenders without resistance. If we win..." She paused dramatically. "You turn around and find some other planet to bully." The bridge erupted in what could only be described as alien laughter. Colonel Crix was chittering so hard he nearly fell from his perch. "Admiral, surely you're not considering this ridiculous proposition?" Vex'thara studied the human captain more carefully. There was something in those eyes, something that reminded her of a Xerian pit viper right before it struck. Still, the proposition was absurd. Her flagship, the Worldbreaker, was 3 kilometers of pure destructive power. The human ship looked like it might fall apart if someone sneezed on it. "Very well, Captain Voss. I accept your wager. Though I must warn you, no species has ever survived direct combat with the Worldbreaker." "There's a first time for everything," Captain Voss replied cheerfully. "Oh, and Admiral? Thanks for giving us a sporting chance. Most bullies don't even bother with fair play." The transmission cut, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Admiral," Colonel Crix whispered, "did she just call you a bully?" "Indeed she did," Vex'thara growled, her mandibles grinding. "Prepare the primary weapons array. Let's show these humans what happens when they insult the Galactic Dominion." As the 2 ships maneuvered into position, Vex'thara couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The human ship moved with surprising grace for such a cobbled-together vessel. And Captain Voss had seemed far too confident for someone facing certain death. "Target acquired," reported Weapons Officer Claxton. "Shall I fire, Admiral?" "Wait," Vex'thara commanded. "Let's see what they do first. I want to savor this moment." The human ship, designated ESS Defiance, suddenly began to accelerate. Not toward the Worldbreaker, but away from it. At first, Vex'thara thought they were fleeing. Then she realized they were moving in a wide arc, gaining speed. "Admiral, they're not running away," Colonel Crix observed, his voice filled with confusion. "They're building momentum." "For what?" Vex'thara demanded. "They can't possibly think ramming speed will work against our shields." The Defiance completed its arc and suddenly changed direction, heading straight for the World Breaker. But instead of maintaining course, it began a series of erratic maneuvers that made no tactical sense whatsoever. "What are they doing?" Claxton asked, his targeting system struggling to lock onto the wildly gyrating human vessel. "I believe," said Chief Science Officer Tralven, "they're dancing." Indeed, the human ship was weaving through space in patterns that seemed almost musical. It spun, rolled, and twisted in ways that defied every known principle of space combat. The World Breaker's advanced targeting systems, designed to track the most sophisticated enemy vessels, couldn't get a lock on something behaving so irrationally. "This is impossible," Vex'thara muttered. "No pilot can maintain those G-forces. The humans inside should be unconscious by now." "Admiral," Colonel Crick said, his voice tight with growing concern, "they're broadcasting something." "Audio," Vex'thara ordered, the bridge filled with the most bizarre sound any of them had ever heard. It was rhythmic, repetitive, and somehow infectious. The humans called it music, and this particular sample seemed to be something about staying alive. "They're using their entertainment media as a combat soundtrack," Tralven reported, his voice filled with scientific fascination. "The rhythm appears to be coordinated with their flight patterns." "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard," Vex'thara snapped. "Claxton, fire everything." The World Breaker's weapons systems unleashed a barrage that should have vaporized the human ship instantly. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and fusion torpedoes filled the space around the Defiance with enough destructive energy to crack a moon, and missed every single shot. The human ship continued its impossible dance, weaving between the weapons' fire like it was performing some sort of aerial ballet. Occasionally, Captain Voss's voice crackled over the comm. "Ooh, close one," she called out as a plasma bolt passed mere meters from her hull. "You guys are really good at this. Too bad about the aim though." "How?" Vex'thara roared, her composure finally cracking. "How are they doing this?" "Admiral," Tralven said quietly, "I believe I understand. Human physiology is unique. Their inner ear structures are incredibly sophisticated, allowing them to maintain spatial orientation even under extreme rotational stress. Combined with their species' apparent comfort with controlled insanity, they're able to execute maneuvers that would be impossible for any rational being." "You're saying they're succeeding because they're crazy?" "In the most technical sense, yes." The Defiance suddenly stopped its wild gyrations and came to a complete halt relative to the World Breaker. For a moment, Vex'thara thought they had finally succumbed to the G-forces. Then Captain Voss's voice filled the bridge again. "Okay, Admiral, that was fun. Thanks for the warm-up. Now, let's get serious." "Serious?" Vex'thara echoed. That was their warm-up? The human ship began to glow. Not with the harsh light of energy weapons, but with something that seemed almost organic. The cobbled-together hull plating started to shift and reconfigure itself, revealing hidden systems that definitely hadn't been there moments before. "Admiral," Colonel Crix whispered, "I don't think that ship is as primitive as we thought." "Impossible," Vex'thara growled. "Our intelligence clearly showed that humans have barely achieved basic space flight. They're centuries behind our technology." Captain Voss's laughter echoed through the comm system. "Oh, Admiral. You really should have done your homework better. See, the thing about humans is that we're really, really good at making things look worse than they are. We call it sandbagging." The Defiance's transformation continued, revealing weapon systems that made even the World Breaker's arsenal look quaint. But it wasn't the weapons that sent a chill down Vex'thara's spine. It was the realization that she had been completely, thoroughly, and embarrassingly outmaneuvered. You see, Captain Voss continued, we've been watching the galaxy for quite some time. Learning. Adapting. Preparing. And one thing we noticed about your Galactic Dominion is that you really like to underestimate your opponents. It's a fatal flaw, really. The human ship fired once. A single, precisely targeted beam that somehow bypassed every defensive system the Worldbreaker possessed and struck the flagship's primary power core. The bridge plunged into emergency lighting as system after system failed. Admiral, Claxton reported, his voice barely a whisper, they've disabled our main weapons array, our shields, and our propulsion systems. We're completely helpless. Vex'thara stared at the view screen, where the human ship hung in space like a mechanical angel of destruction. For the first time in her military career, she was speechless. Captain Voss's voice crackled through the comm system again, but this time there was something different in her tone. Less playful, more businesslike. Admiral Vex'thara, I believe we need to have a more serious conversation now. The Supreme Admiral's pride warred with her survival instincts. Her flagship was crippled, her crew was panicking, and somehow a species she dismissed as primitive savages had just demonstrated technology that surpassed her own. What do you want, human? Well, first, I want you to call off your invasion fleet. All 200 ships currently hiding behind Titan's rings. Yeah, we know about them too. Colonel Crix's mandibles clicked frantically. Admiral, how could they possibly know about the reserve fleet? It's completely cloaked. Humans have this funny habit of watching the Watchers, Captain Voss explained, apparently having overheard. We've been tracking your movements for months. Nice try with the stealth fields, by the way. Very advanced. Too bad our gravitational sensors don't care about your fancy light-bending technology. Vex'thara felt her 4 stomachs churn simultaneously. Impossible. Gravitational sensors require quantum processing matrices that your species couldn't possibly what? Understand? Build? Weaponize? Captain Voss's laughter was genuinely amused now. Admiral, let me tell you a little secret about humans. We're really good at 3 things, learning from our mistakes, stealing good ideas, and making everything better than the original. You're saying you stole our technology? Borrowed, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. With interest. See, about 50 years ago, one of your scout ships had a little accident near Jupiter. Mechanical failure, we think. The crew didn't make it, but the ship's computer core was mostly intact. Vex'thara's blood ran cold. The missing scout ship Nexus Prime. They'd assumed it had been destroyed in a solar flare. You've had our technology for 50 years? 53, to be exact. And humans are nothing if not thorough students. We reverse-engineered everything. Your faster-than-light drives, your energy weapons, your shield systems, even your translation matrices. Then we did what humans do best, we made it all better. Chief Science Officer Tralven spoke up, his voice shaking. Admiral, if they've had that long to study our technology, they could have built an entire fleet by now. Oh, we did, Captain Voss confirmed cheerfully. The Defiance isn't our first ship, Admiral. She's just the oldest. We've been building quietly, carefully, making sure nobody noticed. After all, the best defense is making sure your enemies underestimate you until it's too late. The view screen flickered, and suddenly the space around Earth was filled with ships. Not just a few ships, but hundreds of them. Sleek, deadly vessels that seemed to materialize from nowhere, their hulls gleaming with the same organic light that had transformed the Defiance. Mother of the Void, Colonel Crix whispered. They've built an entire armada. Actually, Captain Voss corrected, we've built 3 armadas. This is just the home defense fleet. The other 2 are currently visiting some of your colony worlds. You know, the ones where you've been enslaving indigenous populations? We thought they might like their freedom back. Vex'thara's mind reeled. The implications were staggering. If the humans had truly built multiple fleets, if they had liberated Dominion colonies, then the carefully maintained balance of power in the galaxy was about to shift dramatically. "You're declaring war on the entire Galactic Dominion?" she asked, her voice barely steady. "War? Oh, Admiral, we're not declaring war. We're offering a choice. See, humans have this weird thing about bullies. We really don't like them. And your Dominion has been the galaxy's biggest bully for far too long." The comm system crackled with incoming transmissions. Dozens of them, all from different parts of Dominion space. Vex'thara listened in growing horror as report after report came in. Human fleets had appeared at Corax Prime, Zephyr Station, and the Nexus colonies. In each case, they had demanded the immediate cessation of slave operations and the liberation of conquered species. "This is madness," she growled. "Do you have any idea what you're starting? The Dominion has ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years. "Yeah, and it's been a pretty lousy 1,000 years for everyone else," Captain Voss replied. "Look, Admiral, here's the deal. We're not interested in conquering anybody. We're not interested in building an empire. We just want bullies to stop being bullies. So here's your choice. You can either start treating other species with respect, or you can find out what happens when humans get really, really angry. And if we refuse?" The space around the world breaker suddenly filled with targeting beams. Hundreds of them, all focused on the disabled flagship. The message was clear: the Dominion fleet was completely outgunned and surrounded. "Well," Captain Voss said, her voice taking on a distinctly dangerous edge, "let's just say that humans have gotten very good at making things stop existing. We prefer not to, but we're absolutely willing to if that's what it takes." Vex'thara stared at the tactical display. Her invasion fleet was revealed, surrounded, and completely helpless. The reserve forces she'd hidden throughout the system had been located and neutralized. Even worse, her communications were picking up reports of similar scenarios throughout Dominion space. "How long?" she asked quietly. "How long what? How long have you been planning this?" There was a long pause before Captain Voss answered. "Since the first time we detected your ships in our system. Humans are really good at holding grudges, Admiral. We've been preparing for this moment for over 50 years. Every ship you sent to scout our defenses, every probe you launched, every piece of intelligence you gathered, we gathered more. We learned your weaknesses, your tactics, your technology. And then we planned accordingly." Colonel Crix looked up from his console, his face pale. "Admiral, I'm receiving surrender transmissions from 17 different sector fleets. The humans have effectively neutralized the entire Dominion military in a coordinated strike." 17 sectors? Vex'thara's voice was barely a whisper. "How is that possible?" "Because humans are really good at math, Admiral," Captain Voss explained. "We calculated exactly how many ships we'd need, where to position them, and when to reveal ourselves for maximum psychological impact. We call it shock and awe, and it's been a human military doctrine for centuries." The reality of the situation was finally sinking in. The Galactic Dominion, the most powerful military force in known space, had been outmaneuvered by a species they'd considered primitive. Not through superior firepower, but through superior planning, patience, and the willingness to let their enemies underestimate them. "What happens now?" Vex'thara asked. "Now? Now we talk. Real talk, not the kind where you threaten to blow up planets if people don't do what you want. We're going to sit down, all the species in this galaxy, and figure out how to coexist without anybody getting enslaved, conquered, or generally pushed around. And if the Dominion refuses to participate in your talks, then the Dominion ceases to exist. Simple as that. But I'm hoping it won't come to that. Humans prefer solutions that don't involve turning entire civilizations into space dust." Vex'thara looked around her bridge. Her crew was staring at her, waiting for orders. But what orders could she give? Her fleet was disabled, her empire was crumbling, and the species she'd come to conquer had just demonstrated that they could have destroyed the Dominion at any time they chose. "Very well," she said finally. "The Dominion accepts your terms. But I have to ask, why didn't you just destroy us when you had the chance? Why offer us a choice at all?" Captain Voss's answer came without hesitation. "Because humans believe in second chances, Admiral. We believe that even bullies can learn to be better. And because destroying civilizations is easy. Building something better is hard work. We'd rather do the hard work." The comm system fell silent for a moment. Then Captain Voss spoke again, her voice warm with genuine humor. "Besides, Admiral, where's the fun in just blowing things up? Much more satisfying to watch a bully realize they've been outmaneuvered by the kids they thought they could pick on." For the first time since the engagement began, Vex'thara found herself genuinely laughing. It wasn't the bitter laughter of defeat, but the honest appreciation of a well-executed plan. "Captain Voss, I believe I'm beginning to understand why humans are so dangerous." "Oh, we're not dangerous, Admiral. We're just really, really good at making sure dangerous people learn to play nice." As the human fleet began to escort the Dominion ships toward Earth for the first interspecies peace conference in galactic history, Vex'thara reflected on the day's events. She'd come to conquer a primitive world and instead found herself face to face with the most sophisticated military strategists she'd ever encountered. The humans had won not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through patience, planning, and the kind of creative thinking that had completely rewritten the rules of engagement. They'd turned their apparent weakness into strength, their lack of obvious military might into the perfect disguise for the most effective first strike in galactic history. "Admiral," Colonel Crick said quietly, "what do we tell the High Command?" Vex'thara looked at the Earth growing larger on the view screen, a small blue world that had just changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. "We tell them the truth, Colonel. We tell them that we severely underestimated our opponents. And we tell them that the galaxy just got a lot more interesting." As the Worldbreaker limped toward Earth under human escort, Vex'thara couldn't help but smile. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy was about to experience something it had almost forgotten: hope for a better future. And it was all thanks to a species that had learned to hide their strength behind a facade of harmless primitives. The humans had indeed built their first Star Destroyer. But more importantly, they'd built something far more powerful, a future where strength served justice instead of conquest. And that, Vex'thara realized, was the most human thing of all.